while I was playing in the G League, I have a podcast, but I also had a corporate position. I had a sales job with Amazon, 6-figure job, nice living, all these things. And what I learned from a corporate sales position, there's so many people in my org that also had this feeling as well. And it's almost like high performance, because it was a sales environment. High performance, you tie your identity to what you're doing because you're achieving. And in corporate, they're like, oh, in our Wednesday meeting, all the organization, we'd have a Zoom meeting with over 200 people, and this person, this stats, they got this seller and they got this one launched. And so you're trying to compete, and you compare yourself, and it's almost toxic. And you have the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows. And then when they're really low, the voice in your head is telling you, you are not worth anything. And so if somebody's listening, somebody's watching this, it has nothing to do with who or what you do, because that's not who made you. If, quote unquote, I suck today, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to, if it's sales, if it's hooping, I'm not panning out. It's not working. But what I do is not who I am. Where I am is not who I am. I am who God says I am. And God says I am significant. I'm worthy. He called me. He knew me. He knew me before the beginning of time. and so it's like I'm the only one with my footprint, my handprint, my act, my walk, my expression, everything that I hold. So why would I fold and try to be like you when he made you like you and me like me, to be me, to influence you, and for you to influence me, for us to influence each other, and to build a bigger body of believers.
Hey, welcome to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm excited you're here, and if you're listening for the first time or you're back for another great episode, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to start by letting you know that your story and what you may be going through, they matter. And you're not alone. So try not to worry about what chapter you're in, because if you trust God with your story, he's going to breathe life back into it. So sit back with a community that cares about you in hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in Men's Real Stories. So before we get started, you know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to ask you. Go ahead and do me a quick favor and click that thumbs up right down there in the corner. Go ahead and click on that. You'll be glad you did. Then if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, it's free of charge. It won't cost you nothing. So go ahead and click that now. So now that that's out of the way, thank you all for your support, and know that this podcast is nothing without you and the men who God has put it on their hearts to saying yes to joining me. Like today's special guest, who God gave multiple gifts to, but the one that caught my attention was in the form of mindful self-awareness and growth, as well as encouraging content. Because after experiencing his content, I left with a new perspective on how I was previously seeing things. So as I've always heard, when a man has wisdom like this to share, there's a story behind it, and that's where the real gems are. So I'm excited to welcome our brother, Norense Odiase, to the episode. What's going on, bro?
I'm blessed, man. Thank you for having me. I'm appreciative of the platform, and just to share my story on here with many faces and homes and hearts, and with you, man. I think this is special. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, that was well said. I mean, like, yes, I think you hit them all, and it's so true, because you truly never know who God is going to reach through this conversation. You would like to believe, well, I'm sure my friends will see it, but you never know who may hear this and the story that will come from this story,
right?
Which is just so remarkable.
And you know, it's funny because just even to start, it gives me the opportunity to think about what I do. I have a podcast as well, like you said, and I do content, but just the opportunity to speak face to face and eye to eye with somebody about the real challenges that we've overcome or that we're going through, it arms you with the knowledge of how to move forward. I am quick with it. I talk, my thoughts go everywhere. Just to give you a backstory on mine quickly, I'm one of 4. I'm a twin, and I have 2 older sisters that are twins as well, from Dallas, Texas. I'm Nigerian and American. And I have this story to where, if I was to fast forward or rewind rather, 6 to 8, I was sexually assaulted by older women in my life. And when it happened, it made me feel less than. It made me feel insignificant. It made me feel a lack of self-worth. It made me feel a lack of purpose, a lack of everything in my life, because I look over to my left, I see my twin brother, and I see my siblings, and I see my relatives around the same age, and nothing like that is happening to them. But every time certain people or older people in my life came around, it would happen to me. And this happened when I was 6. And through that time, as a twin, like I mentioned before, I was always already searching for my identity anyways. I'm a twin in this household, wearing the same clothes, the shoes, everything as my twin brother. I'm like, I want to be me. That paired
Right.
with what happened to me in the household, it had me feeling like I didn't matter. And when I would open my eyes and go to
Mm.
school, in the classroom, I was also different. And it's a quick pause in that story. It's like for anybody, for myself, feeling different, feeling um, less than anybody else, you have a choice to either try to do what they do to fit in or stand out. And it's really challenging to stand out at that age, 6 to 8. Like I said, I chose to do
Yeah.
the latter and try to fit in. I was doing the gangs, I was doing the wrong things in the school because they were like, oh, who's this Nigerian kid? We don't see what he sees. They wearing the forces. My parents back home, we ain't buying you no forces. Like, we're Nigerian. We don't even see that way. I say all that to say, when you're juggling, and I always say this when I'm in this stage of life whether you're searching to find your identity, it's really the community and the people that pour into you during those adolescent stages that really build you and help you move forward in life. In that
Yeah.
stage of my life, I again, I chose to do the wrong things. Another add on to my story was that at the age of 8, my father, he's a pharmacist and a preacher. He went overseas to Nigeria, basically on a job promotion. And what had happened was my uncle was the governor of a state in Nigeria, and he appointed my dad as the chairman of the board for all the hospitals, and to basically a promotional thing where he was traveling the country and he had that real position. He tried to come back over here, back to Texas, and one day his visa was denied. And I'm relaying these things kind of quickly because I'm just starting to show just what my whole story, but it allows me to go and to think about the story and how it's impacted my life. And at that moment, it impacted my life as the next step came where he wasn't in my life for the next 10 years. And so if you look
Mm.
at my story from 6 to 8, sexual assault was happening. I was getting into the wrong things at school. My dad leaves at 8. He can't come back for 10 years. And so during this whole time, I would go back to school and the kids at school would be like, okay, where your daddy at? Okay, you not this. Okay, you not that. And I was wearing that story. Why am I saying all this? Because again, during adolescence, you're in that seeking to find yourself, find your significance. I was searching, I was searching, I was searching. And I always say, when you're in this fight, in this search, whatever you find during that search sets your foundation for who you run into. There's one day
Mm.
at the age of 8,
Yeah.
I picked up this orange basketball, and when I picked up the orange basketball, I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and I saw people that just said, oh, yeah, you're playing the sport. I saw the evidence of the notoriety of the love that I got while I'm looking at this orange basketball. And for a moment, I had never experienced that in my life. I could remember the joy behind my parents' eyes watching a Hakeem Olajuwon play, and everybody's gathered around the TV watching them do something of purpose, of significance. And I'm like, okay, I want to do that. I want to do that. I'm going to sell my life to do that. And I picked up this orange basketball and I didn't look back. I went on, I played in high school. I didn't have the offers that I wanted at the time because I went to this school that was a guard school. I'm a forward, and I did an extra year high school basketball in a different state in Florida. My twin brother, went to Texas Tech at that time. So in 2014, I'm at this prep school, Elevate Prep Academy in Florida, and I am not without any school. And this is a month before signing day. And so I'm thinking about myself. I'm like, am I even stepping into what I think I'm stepping into. It's like everything I ever known, like I'm working, I'm pushing for my significance in this sport, and I have goals that I've set, and I've been able to arm myself with the knowledge and with the fight to move forward based off the pain of not feeling worthy enough. And now I'm in this time where I can't reach this goal. Everything shifted when I had this plan, me and one of my teammates, to send out college videos of our highlights because nobody was in the gym. Long story short, I sent out a highlight tape to every D1 school in college, and I made a list. That's a whole story in itself. I sent it to Texas Tech where my brother was, and I ended up at Texas Tech. Why am I saying all this? Because when it gets to a point of I started placing my identity in the sport, in the game, in something that I've seen. Oh, I pushed for, I experienced pushback, but I still bet on my ability and the trait to get to a sport. You start wearing that even more and more and more. Fast forward at Texas Tech, I started my freshman year. We won the Big 12. We went to the final Monday, Final Four. Everything looks high and mighty. And in that day, one day, my last year of college at Texas Tech, the year that I just mentioned, the Final Four year, I had everything. And I'm looking at that moment of, okay, I finally feel significant. If I was to zero in on a week, it was the week of we played a Baylor. And Baylor, this was for Big 12 championship. And if anybody knows Big 12 basketball, it was Texas Tech had never won the Big 12. It was a huge thing. It was like LeBron going to Cleveland, winning a championship. It was like an actual thing. And so
Right.
I already told you that we did, but that week I had family coming in. I had a cousin fly in from Boston, and I had a cousin at Texas Tech. And I'm like, okay, this is a big moment for us. I'm leading our team to a championship match. I have family coming in. I have press. I have all the eyes on me. And in this moment, I feel significant. I feel the worth. I feel loved. I feel like this is what life is about. You achieve, you get this great job, you get this great position, and your family and people, you have eyes on you, just like I was. The eyes were on me when I picked it up as a little kid. When I picked up this orange ball, the eyes were on me. The eyes are on me now. I felt that significance. And I'll never forget it. It was the day before I played the game, and my cousin flies in from Boston. And this is a cousin. I was born September 14th, me and my brother, 1995. He was born September 9th, 1995. Like, we're basically brothers. He flies in from Boston. And I called my other cousin who's also coming to the game, who went to Texas Tech. And I said, hey, OT's coming in town. Let's go out. Let's do something. Call me when you stop studying, or whatever I said. And he was like, okay, cool. Later that night, we meet at a bar, and I have a workout in the morning. And so I had a quick workout before my game, and I walk to the door. This is about 11 p.m. And I say, if you need anything, to OT and to Sosa was his name. If you need anything, call me. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. And that was the last moment I ever saw him. What happened was later that night, they got hit by an 18-wheeler and they lost their life. Why am I using this story? Why am I saying it so fast? I'm saying it because when you place your identity in a game and your worth and your significance, and everything changes in life, life changes, you realize the significance of yourself. You realize of your purpose in this life. At that moment, hindsight is everything. I know that now, but after that moment, when I got the call, I was driving to, that's a whole different story. When I was driving to the police department, I got the call and I'm crying and everything. I wanted to take my life. And I'm saying all this because that moment for me, I always say, when you're on this search, you're in your survival mode. Keep surviving, keep going. Suppress your emotions rather, and surrender to those emotions. So you're in this mode of survival in itself, this overarching mode of survival. So you're suppressing your emotions to try to move, to try to keep going, to try to achieve the goal, which I've been doing my whole life, is suppressing emotions of the past on how I felt from being taken advantage of and saying these, being picked on in school and I'm suppressing those emotions and not wanting to surrender to that voice. After this happened, I wanted to surrender and I wanted to take my life. I felt, either one out of, or either 3 for 3 or none of us. Like, why is it that the biggest moment of my life, they're gone? I still can't fathom that. And so after that moment, I was numb. I said, okay, this question I've gotten, suppress my emotions or surrender. Should I suppress or should I surrender? I can't suppress. I can suppress, but I can't surrender because my cousins, my family, they didn't come here for nothing. They didn't. How can they just fly in and quote unquote leave this earth in vain? And so for me as a athlete, as somebody that's trained themselves to perform, push, and disregard what's actually happened in my life, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna push forward. And so I started suppressing. I kept suppressing again. We go to the Final Four. We lost on the final Monday. I turned pro. I was with the Suns, Suns G League, went overseas. And when I went overseas again, it's another sticking point in my life where 3-story house, nice living. From the outside, everything looks beautiful. Everything looks like, oh, dang, he's having it. He's doing it. And it was a different story. I experienced prejudice over there with a coach who's also the GM in a different country, which is problematic in itself. I had a concussion, I had a torn hamstring. I'm 9 hours away from home. And you come to a point where every single time in the day, there's 3 times you go and see, or you go into the facility in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. In the morning, you get a workout. In the afternoon, you get a workout and you have practice. And then in the night, you get extra shots up. And every single time I would walk and go to that gym, I would hear things about myself which were not true. And it goes to the sentiment of you're worthless, you're useless. We don't wear do-rags in Europe. We don't do this in Europe. All said from my coach. And I'm somebody, again, I mentioned briefly that my father was a pastor. I grew up in faith, a real religious background. Because, if you know Nigerians, they'll pray you under the table. And I grew up in that environment. But when you're 9 hours away from home and you hear somebody just saying something to you over and over and over again, not knowing the weight of the world that you're already carrying to even play this game still, you start agreeing with it. And I started agreeing with it. I started telling myself things that I wasn't, and it was training. I was training myself to think negative, see negative, and I've never done that before. I get hurt, I get a concussion, and I'm back at my place. And at this moment, I'm away from the team because of challenges that kind of I faced there with prejudice. But in that time, again, it was another moment where, should I suppress this voice or should I surrender to this voice? And I couldn't suppress anymore because I'm by myself. There's no one here. I can't even push and throw myself into the game that I've been suppressing in because I'm hurt and I have a concussion and I have a torn hamstring and I can't move. And I'm getting cursed out by my neighbors in Dutch and German for trying to do something loud, like express myself in the house. I chose to surrender. And this surrender was a different surrender. This surrender was back to my faith. This surrender was going and stepping 10 toes into my light. I got a text from my mom, and it was, I believe it was a message from Dr. Fred Price. It was the Battle of the Mind. And it was the first moment as a young man where I was able to watch a sermon, read the Bible for myself, and take my own story and let it read me, basically. And it changed my life. And that was a long and such a wild introduction. And I'm glad you prayed before
no,
this
it was
call.
good, bro. Yeah.
Because I've been trying to work on telling my story in ways that people can actually understand. But I will say that it prompted me. It prompts me with a life of trying to serve and use my voice to inspire and motivate and encourage and edify people. Because after you get off a life story like that, and I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I look around, I'm still in this house. I still have a torn hamstring. I still have a concussion, but I have new eyes in the same situation. And I was able to fly back after that year and come back, and I still played in the G League. I got a corporate job. I did different things, but I'm like, okay, boom, I'm going to start a podcast because I want to use my voice to bless and to touch people all over the world. And fast forward to the moment where, with the content specifically, where you met me, it's funny because I as of yesterday, or no, it's funny, as of this week Friday, this is September 25th as we're recording this, as of this week Friday, it'll be 3 years, 3 full years that I've never missed a podcast episode. I have a podcast, and when it comes to that, like it's funny, I'm curious to know or hear later about your journey with the podcast and how you've been. But it's funny when you do something and you want to get it out and you want to empower and inspire people, you're like, okay, what's the best medium, what's the best way to do it? And so I would take these head, what is it called, the talking head clips, just like we are right now, and I would put it on social
Right.
media. And for me, it wasn't working. I guess my face, the screen, it was not working like everybody was working. I can't just put my talking head in the caption and it worked. No. So there was one day I was at the gym, and close by the gym, about 10 minutes away from my house, there's this nature preserve. And for me, walking around, like I'll do later today, walking outside, thinking and writing down my thoughts are huge in my process of really trying to serve and build content. So one day I was out there writing, reading, thinking, and I'm like, you're studying photography, videography, cinematography. You kind of know what people would like. So why don't you just stay at this ledge? There's contrast in the back with the green, and there's a leading line, is what they call it, that leads the watcher, the listener, whatever's eyes into the subject. Why don't you just become the subject in this whole pie surprise? And boom, like the content, my content started coming out that way. So I had to pivot basically what I do on the podcast into content, and that's how you kind of found me. So I appreciate
Yeah.
the opportunity to be able to speak on my story. It's a powerful thing, again, to host a podcast, to hold a podcast. And thank you for the reminder again as I ramble to a close.
No. Oh no, you're not done yet, bro.
No,
I
I know,
look,
I know.
listen to me. You just did all the work for me, and I appreciate it because it was like, well, that's great. Normally, I gotta lead people through this. Like, so what happened there? How did that feel? But no, like, it's nothing like a man who understands the power of his story and then understands what the power in bringing it into the light and sharing it with other people. Because there are some parts of our story, even in what you share, which I want to thank you for your vulnerability, is like, yeah, no, you don't share that with anybody, because imagine how they will see you when you let out that, like, this is what I went through when I was this age, and this is how it looked when I got to this age, and this is how I felt after being alone and isolated and begin to let somebody else speak into my life. A lot of that, there's shame that comes with that for a lot of us. And so it most people, and I think we all see this through social media, is that most people want to share the story that's going to have this glitz and glamour to it, that people
Mm.
will be like, oh, I want that, or oh man, I wish I had that, or man, that's awesome. Nobody ever wants to say, hey, look, when I was 8, my dad, the voice of the voice that was in my life was not there anymore. Before then, I had family that sexually abused me. Like that's a lot to share with people who don't know you, and you begin to believe that, oh, well, they're going to fill in the blanks of who I am now based on that. And so I've realized that God will use what we will bring into the light, as you just did. God will use what we are not afraid to say, because there is somebody on the other side of this screen that's going to hear this and be like, me too. How do I get past this? Is there a future for me? Is there a reason to keep going on? You said you were ready to give up. So what made you keep going? Because right now where I sit, I just want to throw in the towel. I don't see anything good that can come from the rest of this story because I am still stuck in a scene that happened when I was young that I can't let go of. And it has now, as you even, I love the word you use, has become my identity now. That is who I am. I'm the kid who has no father. I'm the kid who was sexually harassed, assaulted. I'm the kid who on my greatest day, on one of my most memorable days, my heart was yanked out of my chest and I had to play numb. I had to succumb and suppress a lot of how I felt and what was going on to be able to perform for others because there was something in that gave me all of the validation, all of the love that I had been looking for that felt good.
Yeah.
And if we don't do it, then we're leaving it up to somebody else that I keep swiping through Instagram looking for the next person who's sharing their life and saying, I'm sorry that happened to you. That sucked, bro. That should have never happened. But that's not the end. That's not where we're not going to put a period in that and close the book. So I think it's fair to say that you just spoke that loud and clear that it is time for somebody to open their book back up and start with and I or and God, but God, or whatever you want to write. Because I love that you said I surrendered to something, to someone that was bigger than me and that had space for my emotions.
You know,
It wasn't
not to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's powerful. It's, you know, this is almost to a different, maybe to pivot to a different thought. It's like in faith-based communities, we come to a point where we're sharing our story and then we say the but too quick. But God, but God, but God. And it's a blanket over our story because, like you said, it's hard to actually share the vulnerable things. And I think it's powerful to share and to sit because God is with you as you're sitting. And
Facts.
you can add on to what God did in your life. It still glorifies God as you share your story. That in itself is glorifying God because you have confidence to bring and to shed light onto something most won't, most can't, most wouldn't at all. And it's because of the power of God. It's because of the Holy Spirit working through you to use your voice, to use your thoughts, to use your traits as a conduit of change to help and to lead the conversation. I always say vulnerability is courage. That's leadership. It's saying, I know I'm not the only person thinking, feeling, breathing, smelling, walking in these shoes. You are too. You're just not showing it. So why don't I step up to the plate and show it? And so I think it's powerful to be able to actually share everything, pause, and then to allow, okay, how'd you do it? God. It's funny. I think about my content. Sometimes I have this wrestle in my head. Dang, the voice, I call it the mind bully, negative voice, the voice of the enemy. Oh, well, I don't want to be on here preaching, always preaching. I don't want to, how are you going to attract people preaching? One, everybody's preaching something. Everybody's preaching something. Like everybody. Two, to that point though, it's like, it's not, and that's the funny part. Like when I talk, sometimes I lose my point, but it's not even about the preaching. It's about sharing your story, sharing who you are, sharing your thoughts, sharing your process, sharing it. And whatever you have in your heart, it comes out. That's how it comes out. Like I always get back there. I'm like, man, why am I saying this and saying this and saying this? You will be surprised. There's so many quote unquote unbelievers, regular people, thinking humans just like us. That's why I say that are impacted even by biblical stuff because the word of God is powerful. And so why do I say that? It's because it's huge to be able to, I always say this as a maxim, I preach everywhere. Sometimes I use words. Like, you shall see from the fruits of my life, for how I stand up, for how I show up, for how I lead conversations, for how I talk, who I serve. You should see that. I don't have
Yeah.
to, this, preach everywhere. Sometimes I use words. And so that is the thing that I kind of forgot, but I got back to the point. Like, it's to share your story and to have some space and let them ask you sometimes and stand up to the plate. And because it's
That's
like,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
there's so many young people. Again, we prayed before this, and it's funny that we did that, because your method of having this conversation with no notes, no anything, that's exactly what I do. That's exactly what I do. And that's why I'm like, oh, dang. So maybe confirmation that I'm doing mine right, because I'm like, I have all these notes and things, but I'm like, I never ask. I just go. I'm flowing and I'm leading as God leads. This is another sidebar. I never say, like, me and my family, we have this argument all the time. I was going to say the Holy Spirit's using me. Obviously he is. But I always say, they be like, God said, God told me this, God told me this. I'm like, bro, I find myself, I don't say I'm religious. I say I'm spiritual. Obviously, I have a personal relationship with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But religious is, oh, God said. Boy, do something. Do something. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because me talking, rambling, all this, it's letting the Holy Spirit lead as he is, but
Yeah.
I believe it's power and God speaking to one person through my expression. So
Yeah. No, I told you that before the episode. I was like, dude, your expression was different. It was like I told you, I said, man, if I could have your voice ring out in moments where I'm sitting there and I'm debating and I'm letting that inner bully voice that you said earlier begin to tell me, like, but yeah, like maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe and then maybe it doesn't matter, turn to maybe you don't matter. Maybe that's how they see you. And all of a sudden it's like, stop. You do matter. God does see you. Like, it's funny because I hear your content now in my head of like, and I recently just put up a post about checking the source. Who is speaking to you? What voice is that? Do you know a voice have you heard that voice all your life and let that voice lead you? And now you sit here in your 20s, 30s, 40s, like, yeah, I mean, I've always believed what they told me. When I was 10, I remember they told me I'd never amount to anything. I've proved them right. Well, who's they? I don't know, my family or something. Well, what did they say? I don't remember. But what I took from it was that I would never amount to anything. And I literally just had that same conversation with my son. Who told you that? Who told you that? Like truly, who told you that? Because as you shared your story, I recognize that sometimes unintentionally, the people who are supposed to pour into our lives, are supposed to speak life into the life that we are beginning, are sometimes taken out of the equation so that the wrong voices can begin to mold us. And I recognize that me and you have a similar story in that I believe as men, seen as though this is it's a men's podcast, but this is also a believers podcast. This is a individual's podcast. This is for anybody who will listen. I recognize that the voices that are supposed to be there to speak life over you have a way of sometimes there being distance put in between them. If that doesn't sound like the voice that a lot of times we have tuned out over our lifetime to give way to every other voice but his voice, I don't know what else, because it literally just came to me that that's the same way we treat God's voice. And a lot of times we will listen to every other voice. It is so much louder in our lives than the voices that were there to tell you, son, you do matter, even if you never pick up that orange basketball. Son, you do have value, even if you never actually run a touchdown in. Son, you do have matter, even if you never, ever make me proud based on what you think will make me proud, because I'm proud of you already for waking up and getting to it today. Even if you feel like there's room for growth. And I think those voices are missing. So as you did, we fall into careers, we fall into lifestyles, we fall into identities that begin to bring people around, good or bad, to say, yeah, you're the man. You're the
Mm-hmm.
dude, you killed that. And
Mm-hmm.
it could be in the worst industries ever. But as long as there's validation there, there's recognition. I see you. I'm proud of you. We step into that full force.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, maybe this is where I was supposed to be all this time. I've never felt this way any other setting.
Mm.
So maybe I'm right where I'm supposed to be. But
And it's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's fleeting.
Because I was about to ask you, what was your career like when you couldn't play?
Mm-hmm.
When they said you have to sit down and you're sitting there with the hamstring. And so now you're a basketball player still, but you're one that can't actually play the game.
I just talked to a friend about this because he's going through a time where he tore his patella tendon. He's out for a year, and he had a big season. He plays in the EuroLeague. He had a huge season, coming off Achilles tear, and so he already came back from this huge injury. He's coming back, and he plays a great year. He's with a big club, and then boom, last day of his season, he tears his patella tendon. I say that I use him as an example because me and so many athletes, when you are forced to sit on the sidelines and your eyes are fixated on the game and your teammates and somebody filling your position, playing, and you get up, you have their cheers, you shake their hands, and then you sit back down. There's a voice building in your head that's saying you're worthless. Look, sports is very matter of fact. So you're grading yourself all the time. And so when you grade yourself and it's a 0 or it's a DMP, do not play, for those that don't play sports, it's like, okay, he did not play. Why am I living? Why am I here? Why am I even it's even saying this is something that I know, but it's something that is connected in every industry. It's funny because when I was overseas, I came back. I played in the G League, and
Yeah.
it's so funny. Just yesterday, I was sitting at this very desk. I was watching this because I like public speaking, I like reading, and I like writing, and I've done some speaking. But as you can see, I need to dial in my story a little bit to get it out quicker, whatever.
No,
But I was
it was
watching this
good,
video.
bro.
Thank you. I was watching this video, and the stuff about horoscopes, and to know this girl, bless her heart, she said something about to know the traits that you've been given. Just wait till the Mercury sign and you study the planets. And I just went on a rant yesterday on my story. I was basically like, how can you the creator, if you want to know about the creation, go to the creator. You're trying to ask and find your own complete examples of the creation to tell you about the creation. It doesn't make sense. If there's a manufacturer knows more about the product than the product knows more about the other product. And so I'm saying that because you are not what you do. And how do you find out who you actually are? Return back to who made you. Return back to you. And so it's something that I learned, and that I tell myself over, and I remind myself over, and even in the content and even in conversations, it's like, okay, pan out. It's important to look at the stats, the analytics, whatever is grading your performance. Yes, it's not to wish it away. It's like, okay, this is where I'm at. So it's that I'm passionate about that because
head,
it's
bro. Yeah, and you should be. I feel like your passion comes from a belief in something that some will say, yeah, but you've never actually seen it. So why are you so like passionate about how you feel about this? And I think that that is a stance that a lot of people stand on. That is why you have so many diluted versions of spirituality where people are like, well, you know, you can mix a little bit of this with a little bit of that, and now you're spiritual now. That's why you can grab a couple rocks and you can look up at stars, and you can mix up a little bit of stuff and then smoke a little bit of stuff, and then you're spiritual. And it's like, yeah, but see, the thing is that I recognize who created all of that. I recognize and I look to who has put me here for a reason. I can spend the rest of my life looking up at the sky and wondering and waiting for that moon to cross over the sun before I begin to do what God called me to do. Or I can recognize that no, God never needed any of that to give me a start line. He told me to move now. He asked me to be obedient. He asked me to look to him. He asked me to look past those stars and look to him. His voice has been reigning over our lives even before we even begin to tune to it. But you're right. There are a lot of people who and I've been one of those people, actually. You know what, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I've said this before on the record, that there was a time where I found peace in carrying rocks in my pocket. There was a time where I just found something in waiting for the next full moon. And I had been led to believe that's where I would find what I needed to complete me, instead of like, well, who created this stuff? Hey, look, that's great. I'm glad that you're a Pisces or you're a Cancer. But as I wrote on one of your posts recently, I'm none of those. I'm a sign from God to tell you that today that's not where you're supposed to be. That's not going to give you the answers you're looking for. No, look at it from that place. And when I saw your post recently about how, like, you know, yeah, brother, I don't prescribe to that stuff. Like, I was like, come on, tell them. And that's not to attack anybody, because know that we don't get anywhere in attacking people who don't see past it. It's about guiding people to say, hey, look, let me help you see through what you're looking for to actually find the peace you want, to find the love you want. At the end of the day, is it fair that all of us are looking for love and peace from something and other things? But
and that's a great point. It's not to bash anybody at all. It's because the people, and in my life, I like to use myself as an example. You're always searching for the belonging. You're searching for the love, like you said. And I've searched. I've done it in women. I've done it in different things in my life, and it always kept me empty, and it always kept me searching, and I didn't find myself in those things. And I'm saying it from a standpoint of the things that I've tried. I've tried the gangs. I've tried the hoops. I've tried the women. I've tried the thinking and trying to pride, being the, oh, he's the cool guy. Oh, he looked like, I've tried all of it, and none of it held me in my darkest moments. None of it held me when life had me in this stage of wanting to surrender. None of it held me but God, other than God. And so it's important to know that, you know, the things that we're sharing and we're talking about, it's not from a place of even in my story, again, it's not from a place of, oh, this, because I don't like when people talk at you. It comes from a place of seeing eye to eye.
Sure.
To what you may, anybody listening to this, I don't know exactly what you're going through. I don't know exactly the ways that you use or the objects that you use to cope. I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes, but I do know, and I can relate to the feeling of the emptiness. And I know that the only person that can fill the emptiness is Jesus Christ. And so I am curious, though, how did you, because if there's somebody listening and they're, I know it's divination, but if it's something like that, if it's trying to connect with their spirituality and they haven't quite found Christ, how do they even shift? Like, what made you even shift from carrying the rocks in your pocket to having and finding peace and solace in Jesus?
Man, that's a great question. So, I had an encounter one night, brother, after having, I used to, and people who resonate with this will know this, that I used to put my stones in the window sill to be recharged by the moon and different things. And one night when I was on the cusp, I'd already decided that my life belonged to God. But I felt like, well, both of these can exist in the same circle. One night, man, I had an encounter while I was laying in bed when those rocks were like sitting maybe like 5 feet away from me. And I was assaulted by a demon, and I couldn't do anything about it. And it freaked me out, bro. Like, I'm talking about it. I had never encountered anything like that I could recall or remember. And
what'd you see?
It's crazy. Well, yeah, no. So literally, I remember thinking that like I was dreaming, but I opened my eyes and I could see my bedroom, and I could see a dark figure just all over me, like literally holding me down. And I kept thinking, I'm dreaming. And so at the point where I opened my eyes and I looked and I saw the ceiling of my room and I saw what was around me, I was like, I'm not dreaming. This is real. And I don't know what the heck has gotten me in this space, but what was crazy was that I had a wife who at the time I was separated from that was praying for me and praying for my eyes to be open to what I was dealing with. The new age religion that I felt was innocent. And it's crazy because she kept wanting to come to me to say that I feel like what you're dabbling in is not of God, but she trusted that God would get the message to me. She trusted in prayer that she would have, because she felt like with us being in the space we were in, nothing she would have said would have even connected with me. I didn't want to hear what she had to say. And there was probably some truth to that. But I remember after that night, after what I went through, I remember looking over at those rocks that next morning and we're like, oh no, you got to go. And everything that has anything to do with you has to go. I remember, and it's funny because there are a lot of people who are like, well, look, I'm just going to give this stuff away to somebody else. I would tell you right now, don't turn around and give that to somebody else. You either box that up and put that deep in a dumpster, or you box that up and you burn that. One of the two. But I had to get rid of everything: the books, the stones, the sage, whatever, anything that didn't turn my attention to God had to go, because I recognized that it wasn't a this and that. It was that only God could be the person that I could seek. Only God had the answers for me. Only God knew where he was taking me. I couldn't say, well, hey, God, look, I'm gonna give you the day off and I'm gonna let these stones, like it doesn't work that way. And so it was probably one of the biggest stones that I took out of my life on the journey of healing, because that was in a place where I was still trying to find who I was. I knew who I wasn't. And at that point, I knew that those stones couldn't come on the journey with me anymore. They were not a part of my healing journey. And I say that because I know there are a lot of people who take those on their healing journeys. And I recognize that and he says it in his word, I am a jealous God. I'm not a God who you can say, well, hey, look, you can juggle a little bit of me and a little bit of that. And you can just make a gumbo of all of us. No. It's a matter of saying, God, I trust you to meet my needs in all areas of my life. And so that was something that I couldn't just say it. It's not just a word. I'm living this way. I'm going to live this way. I'm going to trust you to be fully a part of my life. And so that was just one of many opportunities where I recognize that, like, yeah, no, God doesn't work in this stuff that you believe he's working in. He doesn't work in this astrology that begins to give you an identity outside of his identity of you. It tells you that, oh, well, you will be meeting your mate soon, so go to the Publix and get ready for them to walk in and know that you guys will raise a family in West Dakota. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like you, because next week is going to give you a new horoscope. So know that all of that stuff is truly just to to deceive you. It's to take you into a different direction from where he's taking you. And I say that in love, because I recognize there are a lot of people that truly believe in that
Man, hey, sorry,
hold on to that.
not to cut you
Yeah,
off.
go ahead.
We ain't gonna do no more disclaimers. Thank you again. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's powerful. And I'm saying that no disclaimers because it's like, here's a man and Robert telling you what he went through, telling you how he felt, and telling you that is a dangerous way to walk. So it's the only man to reconcile you to the Father is Jesus Christ. It's not It's not all these other things. So it's like, because I always say, like, we can't dial the fence. It's like, bro, I love you too much to watch you go to hell. I love you too much.
Facts.
I love you way too much. So I'm gonna tell you the truth. And for me to wash my hand, I told you. So that's such a powerful testimony. It's funny. It reminds me of someone in my family. Similar testimony, grew up in Nigeria, and they have these cultish occult practices. And one day, this person, God arrested their attention. And long story short, they are burning all the stuff they used to be involved with. It reminded me of what you just said. When you were talking about, I'm like, wow, like this is exactly what they were talking about. And so it's fascinating in Western culture. I know in a different way, sometimes it appears in the divination and astrology and everything, but in different cultures, it's real. Like you see those, like you said, you thought you were dreaming. You see that apparent in real life. And so it's a deep conviction that we have to stand in and walk in to share with people. Like that story, that's a powerful story. And sometimes I had an encounter, not like that at all, but almost in a way, to where I'm saying this because when you tell your friends that you think that won't get it, they're like, you don't know if it's like, oh, this guy's gonna think this is hocus pocus. That's why it doesn't. Right. You don't want to share it. But then I found out in my story, I share it, and it's like, oh, like people have these real stories too. And so it goes back to the thing that we said in the onset, just sharing your experience, vulnerability. It's leading the conversation. And then you'll be surprised to where, oh, like you're able to see eye to eye with somebody else, and you're able to reach and speak to that someone else. So
Yeah. And like we said earlier, there's power in sharing this. It's, do you feel the shame keeping you from sharing it? Or are you going to open up and say, you know what, I'm going to allow you to see into me? Because as I've shared with people, intimacy only comes through vulnerability. You like I love how my pastor said it one time, allowing you to see into me means that I have to open up the coat. I have to take off things. I have to take off the facade and the pose that's been keeping me from sharing this with you. And that is where, but my thing is also always in that I want to do it with an equal amount of grace and truth. It is true that there is no way to God but through Jesus Christ. That is truth. And there is grace in saying, I'm sorry you have been led astray. I'm sorry you have been told that you can find him through this stuff. I'm sorry that you have been led to believe that there is peace and comfort and joy and love and all this stuff in other little things that you have made a God, that you have made an idol out of. But it's not true. And as you said, we say this because we love you, not because we want to try to convince you. I mean, let's not act like we're not in a season right now where people are trying to convince you of something. Right now, we're trying to lead you to believe that this person is who you should vote for, or you should vote for this person. And so everybody is really strong and heavy and passionate about this. And so I am equally passionate to say, hey, listen to me. That's great and all, and I'm going to let y'all finish. But what you should be aligning your heart and your life with is Jesus Christ. And if you look to a man or a woman to lead you or lead this country, that's great. But I know that I am looking to God to lead my life, to lead my family, to lead what I do, to lead where he's taking me, to open doors so that he can be in the building and just work through me. But if I don't prescribe to that, if I just say, well, I'm going to leave you on the table today, God, who's leading you? Like who's leading you? Like, and if you're telling me, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but if you're telling me that a stone has led you here, if you're telling me that your horoscope led you here, you mean the same horoscope that all these other people are following? Like everybody, like all of y'all. All of y'all following the same one. That's okay. All right. I don't say that in shade. I just say that in like, let's stop for a second. Let's think about that. I guess think about that. Well, these stars have been here forever. Yeah. Well, guess who's been here forever that made those stars? I'm just spitting. I'm just telling you what it is. It's hard to argue with that. So I think we both understand that. We've seen that. We've had those conversations. We've cared about those people to say, hey, brother, sister, that's not it though. Like, that's not it. We've seen it in our stories. And I think it all goes back to, and I think somebody said it one time, it's all of us are looking for identity and purpose. Identity and purpose are the two main things that most people are looking for. What is my purpose here? And who am I? And if I can easily get that from opening up a book or a newspaper, well, then say less, bro. Let me go get that. If I can easily get that from going and talk to a person who can read through cards and tell me who I am, that's easy. Like, bro, like flip through there's one on a corner. Like, but I'm telling you that it doesn't matter what time it is in your story, where you are in your story, you can cry out to a name above all names and know that he'll meet you right there. No appointment needed. You don't have to pick up a healing journey package. He'll meet you right there.
He'll meet you right there.
He'll meet you in that room when you got people yelling at you on both sides because you're crying out and you're trying to figure it all out. He met you right there. He met me right here. He didn't meet me and you know, I love those stories of like, he met me in church. No, he met me right here. Right here.
And it's powerful to know when you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior that he's no respecter of persons, and you don't have to. Yeah, there's a leading when you follow. We talked about different stages, whether it's my story, whether it's your story, and let's say you say yes to Christ and you come in the body of believers. There's no believer that is better than you in the eyes of God, but there is a leading, there's a community to pour into you, to pour into your journey. And because I get frustrated when you, like we talked before the call, I think, about cultish, like, oh, you do it this way and you're sticking with this because it's belonging. Like we just talked about, okay, we belong, we want to find our meaning. And then you find the church community, and because there's so many people listening, watching that's been broken because the church is filled with broken people, filled whole by Jesus Christ. But we're still human and we're in this sin nature because of original sin. But we're in this story and we forget, like, oh, we're supposed to be seeking and saving the lost, not having these cliques and these cultish communities to where we don't actually change. We just have new people and then we don't pour into those new people. I'm saying that because it's important to find the right community, the right connection to pour into you, for you to be equipped with the knowledge and the skills and the knowing, the reading of the word to then help you do what helped you to go help and serve and build more believers to walk forward and lock arms with. So no, I think it's powerful what you're doing here with this podcast, because it adds to the conversation, whether it's revealing my story, sharing different stories for people to see, oh, that was God. Oh, he could have definitely turned into the drugs and went that way and taken his life, but that was God. Oh, he was in a different country and he had a concussion and torn hamstring. He could have ended it there and by himself, but that was God. And you're able to see, oh, he's away from the game. He's away from his family, everything, but God held him up. Nothing changed on the outside. You're saying, oh, where's the proof? Where's the proof? Yeah. It's hard to tell proof, but evidence is everywhere. There's evidence everywhere. Proof and evidence are different. There's evidence everywhere of God. Oh, that was God. 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 Once you see it, open the eyes of my understanding. May I be flooded. The eyes of my understanding being enlightened to know the hope, the glory that you've called me in, the family that you've called me in. Open my eyes. He's right there.
Yeah.
He's right there.
Yeah.
And he's a gracious God. He's a faithful God. So he's literally, to look at your situation or your relationship with God, he's literally a father. He is a just God. So he is a gracious God as well. If you're ready, okay, come on. If you're ready, come on. And then when you finally came on, it's not like, oh, we living free. You're just going to give me candies and cookies all day. No, he's a just God. So he's going to correct you. Love,
Right.
he loves, he is love. So love corrects,
Right.
love directs,
Right.
corrects, directs.
Yep.
And he, so I get passionate about this because when we cross over a family of faith, everything's going to be, no. But that's what your faith is for. That's what faith is for. That's the only thing that pleases him anyways. Your faith.
Yeah.
It's impossible to please him without faith. And so it's like, okay, I know I'm in a family of champions, of winners. I have an expected end for me. Okay, so how do I achieve and move and serve and live and breathe? It's by faith.
Yeah.
And faith ain't, oh, dang, it makes sense. Oh, does that make, no, sense is sense. Faith is faith. If it don't make sense, yes, it makes faith.
But
it's
I think
too
that goes
different.
back to, I think that goes back to what you said earlier about being in a circle of believers, because in order to be a disciple, you have to be discipled. You so know that in the body of Christ, yes, everybody is not meant to disciple you. I hate to say it that way, but everybody was not assigned to your life or to speak life into you. But it's in those moments that I have been around men, other men. I have built a group of men that I can come to and we can talk about things, and they can begin to point me back to the word and not to like them. Like, oh, I can help you with that. It's sometimes like, hey, bro, let's pray about it. Like, hey, let's seek God on that. Mm-hmm. But also let me encourage you. Because right now your faith may be dwindling. And I don't know about you, but bro, there's days where like I'm starting to feel like, all right, God, like, what is it on slug mail? Like, where are you at? Like, my faith was strong 21 days ago, and now here I am and I'm dry. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the importance of having believers that it can encourage you. I think that was the importance of having Paul in the Bible, to send letters that encouraged believers, because they were sitting there and being persecuted. They were sitting there and experiencing things. And it's like, yo, like my faith ran out just the other day. I'm fresh out of faith. Like, what's up? Mm-hmm. And that's where Paul and other believers step in and say, let me encourage you in that faith. Let me encourage you on that walk. I recognize that, yes, God has been good to you, but sometimes we fall short of remembering what he did like last season. Mm-hmm. He met me there, but now I'm starting to be like the Israelites. I forgot that he fed me from the sky. What else you got, God? Where are you at right now? Y'all don't remember what just happened? Like, he fed us from the sky. He brought down fire to keep us distance from our enemies. Like, I think, honestly, I feel like that's where that quote came. Are you not entertained? Okay, bro. I really feel like that was God was the first person to ever say that. What more do you guys want? Like, I've shown you how much I love you and want to protect you. And so I think that is, where a lot of people are, I think they're trying to do it on their own. They're trying to, yes, you will find God personally on your own. You will build a relationship with him, but then he calls us to be in community, and all communities aren't created the same. I think we've already kind of hit on that.
And it's so important to have a relationship with Christ for yourself as well, because you join a community and very principles of, let's say, prayer, one might be confused in. For example, the Bible says, at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. And so, okay, let's say you want healing, and in the church you're at, they're saying, oh, this person has 6 months to live. And you're praying, and it's a real time. It's a real challenging time to where the emotions, the feelings are, man, let's pray for this member of our church. But the Bible, it's not a miracle for that person to be healed. It's our covenant right as believers. 1 Peter 2:24, he's took and bore our sicknesses. Isaiah 53, he took and bore our sicknesses. Whatsoever I desire, when I pray, believing that I receive, I will have. Mark 11:24, Matthew 8:18. And so you're able to to see that by his stripes I'm healed. He took and bore my sicknesses. Whatsoever I desire when I pray, believing that I'll receive, I will have. Place anything in there. That's the prayer of faith. Place anything in there. And so it's like, whatever your covenant promises you, you can have faith for that. You can have faith for that thing, whatever the covenant promises you. So the environment that don't even, they have a leading of the Spirit. They want it for you. They're telling you this, but if it can't be verified, don't believe what I'm saying. Look and study the word. Study the word. Study the word. Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word should be established. Oh, let me see. Matthew on his account. Okay. Paul said this. Jude says this. They said you should find it verified, because scripture, it has a beautiful thing of he said it, she said it. What God is fulfillment of prophecy himself, Jesus in human form. And so it's like, there's so many ways to do your own study and say, I'm not sweet. I know God didn't give that man more than he gave me because he's not a respecter of person. I'm not sweet. So I have a mind of my own. And as I diligently ask, Lord, unveil your word to me, speak to me, use me in this time to be focused, to be locked in, for you to speak. I have different apps. I use this Strong's Concordance to the Bible. It helps you look at Hebrew, Greek words, and boom, it's easy. Like people of old, they did not have it on a phone. They had it on their booklet. I have a big Bible where it takes a lot of time. Long story short, you can do your own research. You can do your own things. And even as I talk and in my head, I'm like, man, some of the scriptures might have been off. You find out. You'll find out it's not. By his stripes I was healed. 1 Peter 2:24. By his stripes I am already healed. Matthew 8:17. Took and bore our sicknesses. Isaiah 53. Took and bore our sicknesses. By his stripes we were healed. Like, do your own research. Do your own. So, don't just believe anything blindly.
So I got a good question for you, North. Based on that and the scriptures and what you know and how faithful God is, have you ever believed for something that God answered your prayers, but not in the way you expected?
I feel like that's an everyday thing. Like, I feel that, but one that comes into mind is content. And it's funny because after this, I'll do some errands. I shared with you, I'm flying out tomorrow and I'm speaking. I do these live shows, live podcasts at my university before football games. So picture, I went to Texas Tech and I do a live show before every tailgate football game. And so I share a Mind Bully podcast. It's Overcoming the Negative Voice. I share it out there and I'm speaking in front of so many people. Why am I saying this? Who knows? But I'll get to the point. I get to this moment where it's with content, and in my mornings, in my time with God, I would always pray like, Lord, let my words reach millions with what I speak, and to encourage and to inspire. And I'm thinking, because I was doing some keynotes 2 years ago I did some at universities. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking it's with the keynotes. I'll be put in front of rooms doing it that way. And, over the last 4 months is when my social media really picked up. I was in April, I was at 900 followers. Now I'm at almost 80. I'm at like 85,000 on one account, and then so much more on the other accounts. Over the last month, 8.7 million people have been on my accounts. And so I've had several of my posts go viral. And then one day in my morning, I write every day. I'm like, oh, he answered that prayer already. I should reach it. I told a friend I should kick it to billions because my words have already reached millions. He's already done it.
Right.
And so,
but not the way you expected, though.
Exactly. So I thought it was going to be on stage and all these different things, but he used this advent of social media, of a medium, to share and to touch many people's lives. So I'm glad that you asked that question. There's so many people that are pushing and prying and wanting something in their life, but it's to pan out and to look at the past, look at where you thought you wouldn't get out before, and look at the prayers that you asked before, and he answered them now. And a lot of times when you're in it, we only just see now. We can't pan out to say, oh, that's an answered prayer. That's an answered prayer. That's an answered prayer. There's God. There's evidence. So I thank you for allowing me to share the evidence of God and of Jesus in my life, because I know that
Yeah.
the power in the words that as we're sharing, as yielded vessels as we are, we have the opportunity to touch people, and we did in this show. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. No doubt, brother. And before I let you go, I got one last question, because it's going, if not, God's going to sit here and spank me later. Earlier, you alluded to like just the loss of your family members, both of your family members, in that wreck right before one of the biggest days. And I recognize how you talked about how, like, at that time you had to like numb yourself to move forward in that moment. Since then, I'm sure that's been quite some time. What have you done to go back and sit in that space that you were in when that happened, to begin to heal something that was truly traumatic on one of the biggest days of your life?
Beautiful question. Thank you for asking. I think it's
Yeah.
important to do that. Introspection is huge for me. Every single morning, I write. And I write a lot about and part of it is, as a basketball player or anything you're doing, you're something that you've done your whole life. You train your identity to it. You almost have to learn everything else. So it's like, for me, it's my emotions, to be able to articulate, okay, this is the emotion I felt. This is what I thought. This is how I felt. And to really find meaning and to draw new conclusions from the same stories that I was telling myself. So why am I saying that? Because I have to go back to those times and when I write, and okay, in Germany, as a child, I thought I was less than. I thought I was significant because of the evidence of people, and I saw through the reinforcements of my society, of my culture, that it should be that way. But when I apply new eyes, when I apply my new nature, when I apply the nature that I've always been, but I wasn't zeroed into it, my kingdom culture, my kingdom nature, I have new eyes about how that situation, how that time in my life molded me into who I am now. So one, I would say introspection, writing out your thoughts, because as you write, writing has the ability to help you clarify the way that you think, clarify what you actually believe. And sometimes,
Yeah.
even as a thought dump, you can look at it and say, oh, that's not me, because that's not what the word says.
Come
So
on.
even if
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
thoughts
Yeah.
that are in my head say X, Y, Z, I just read the good book, and that's not what the good book says. And so you can match it with truth. What you've thought, you're dumping your thoughts. You're being vulnerable enough and sharing. Okay, this is what I think. Sharing. But I think, and I'm so glad you asked this, because I think sharing sometimes gets dangerous, because we're so aware. We're all self-aware. But then we don't do nothing with it. Like, you don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
That's not the whole point. You're supposed to do something with it. And that doing something with it is not in your strength. You've been trying to do something with it. It's to give it back to God. He says, cast all your cares, not some of them. So after you're done with writing, you cast them all to the maker, your maker, and he fills you up. He's the one that gives you whole. So I would say again, writing it out. Introspection is huge. But then again, because it's so funny on my show, on my pod, I always think like, oh, I don't want to just be preaching. I got to give them some practical things to help me. So practical is writing it out. Two, I would say, number one, obviously go to God and praise the tribe of Judah, the tribe of praise. It's funny what happens when, I'm going through a lot of things and I'm just praising. The worship music is on, and now my eye is crying. Not saying feel, but you're able to tangibly feel the presence of God, and then pray.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother aspect of being a believer, because me, I pray in the spirit, because he that prays in the tongue edifies himself. I am not sweet, I'm powerful. And people say, oh, you're so charged up on your social media post. It ain't me. It's because I've been prayed over that thing over and over. And it's just through me. That's two. And then three, number one, again, praise. Number two, prayer. Three, writing, actually seeing, challenging your thoughts, going back and in some modalities in psychology, mental health, they say CBT, looking at it and questioning it. And I really like that. It's like, okay, I'm less than, who says? Like, Why do I think that I'm less than? And you just say, why? Who says? And it's so funny because I do that with myself. Oh, why do I feel like I have to have it all figured out? What would happen if I don't have it all figured out? Oh, I would feel less than. Oh, what would happen if I don't feel less than? Oh, I would feel like nobody loves me. But as you do that, you'll find the root cause, the core belief. And then you can look at that core belief and attribute that core belief to lies. And like we said on the onset, you're being led either way. You're being led. And some people are preaching in the camp of the Father, and some people are preaching in the camp of the enemy. And so when you look at that core belief and you say, oh, if God gives me a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind, if it don't add up to power, love, and a sound mind, that ain't from the Father. If the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and it's not even when you think of that, you think, oh man, kill your body. No, steal your sense of self, steal your sense of peace, steal your sense of worth, steal your sense of anything of significance in this life. If it's coming at that ain't from God. You should attack that. And so bing, 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 bingo, that core belief, you're being led by someone that's not the Father. And so then you can, then you can find the strategies to work out of that once you know the seeds of where that's coming from. So
yeah, no, that's good, bro. Look, we literally just, if you enjoyed like just how he just broke that all down, then you're going to love his podcast, because that's exactly what I experienced through your content and all. I was like, man, this brother's passionate about it, man. And if I could just take this with me, like I'm gonna say this post in the second half, boom, play it back for me, because that is, and a lot of times there are people out here that are isolated, that don't have somebody to encourage them, they don't have somebody to speak into them. And I think that social media, just as harmful as it can be helpful in certain areas where it's like, this is my wing guy, right here. He encourages me, he reminds me, he puts me back to center, he points me back to the Father. That's what you need sometimes. And sometimes you'll find it through the most random places, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, or wherever you may find it. But no, brother, I appreciate your voice. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what God's going to continue to do through you. And before we get out of here, share how people can connect with you, how they can find you, where you're located, where they can tap in what you're doing.
Yeah, on IG, it's Mind Bully Podcast, and my personal is my at King No. The platform Mind Bully Podcast is on all wherever you listen to your platforms, wherever you listen to your podcast, and on TikTok it's Mind Bully. See, I gotta fine tune that too as well. But anywhere you type in,
don't worry, we'll have it all down below. I'll put it all down below, so it'll be all in the description. It'll be down in your show notes, so you guys can click on any of those links and find him on any of those platforms. And definitely tap in what he's doing. Definitely be encouraged. Just don't let this conversation just be the last time you hear his voice. Allow that voice to continue to ring, because what he's going to do is he's going to encourage you in your faith. He's going to encourage you when you feel down. He did it definitely for me, changed some of my perspectives. And brother, like I said, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you taking the time out to sit with me today. I appreciate you just sharing your gift of vulnerability with all those who are listening, who may say, yeah, I resonate with every bit of his story, and I appreciate him sharing our story. So thank you again for that, brother. Thank you all for listening. Before we get out of here, was there anything you want to leave our audience with?
No,
I've squeezed you of everything, but
yeah, I always have more, but I think in close it's powerful. It's powerful to say that you're loved by Christ, you're loved by me, you're loved by him. And it's funny to say, oh, you're loved by, we don't have to know you to love you. That's what being in Christ is like. And
for sure.
And it's powerful to know that you're loved by somebody that doesn't even know you, to know that you're significant, you're lovable, you're wonderful, just as you are. And it's to know that you don't have to shrink. You can stand in who you are, be authentic, be expressive in who you are, and to know that you don't have to bear the weight of the world on your shoulders. In society, as a young man, I can speak to young men, I can speak to young ladies, but I happen to be a thinking, breathing, feeling man. As a young man, you feel like you have to wear the weight of the world on your shoulders to move forward. You don't, and it hurts. you're tired. It's okay to say, I'm tired. I'm tired of carrying this weight. I'm tired of trying to have my relationship life look great. And I'm tired of shrinking and saying, oh, I don't have the job that I want. So I can't even show up. I isolate and I don't care. I don't care. You do care, because you can't just subjectively isolate the emotions that you think you shouldn't care about. No, if you numb your emotion, you numb everything, and then you numb your experience, and then you have a numb life, and then as you're numb, you think, oh, I'm not worth it, oh, I shouldn't be here. No, that's a trick and a seed from the enemy. You do not have to compare yourself to one other person breathing, because there's no other person breathing like you. And so it's like, God gives you the power, the strength, the might to move forward, and he gives you in his word the ability to create wealth through your big mind, through your big brain, through your big heart. You can create it, you can build it, but it's to know who you are and to know that you don't have to close up and shrink up. So I'll say to anybody listening, watching, to stand in who you are, to stand in your light, and to stand in your power. And your power is not this worldly, oh, stand in your power. No, stand in your power, because the power source lives on the inside of you. We are the hand and feet of Jesus Christ. The body of Christ here has his spirit, the advocate, the guide inside of us to do the works of the Father. And so I don't want to start preaching again, but you know that you are a light when you're standing. I was going to look at you too.
I sat back. Yeah. So, my brother, look, I'm not going to come behind that. So as my brother said, hey, listen, I appreciate you leaving us with that. I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you, like I said, just sharing everything you shared, because I truly believe that it needs to be said. It needs to be heard, not just by me, but by other brothers who join me here. So, hey, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for sitting with us today, really just being encouraged and just really leaning in to what God wants to do in your life, what God has for you, what God's trying to do in the lives of the men. He wants his men back. He wants his brothers back. He wants his sons back. And so be encouraged today. And as he said, we love you. We'll catch you on the next episode. All right. Be blessed.
Peace.
And that wraps up another episode of God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm Justin Moore, and we want to give a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in and being part of our community. Your support means the world to us, and we hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. If what you heard resonated with you, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on today's video. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories for updates, new episode clips, and to share your thoughts on today's episode. We love hearing from you. If this conversation happened to shed a light on past experiences of yours that may have been happy moments or maybe hurtful moments, feel free to keep the conversation going in the comments below, so as a community we can listen, pray with you, or point you to helpful resources. Join us next time for another great episode, and until then, let's give God the glory for all he's doing in our stories.